All right, good morning. It's just after 5 a.m. here in Calgary. And with this short Facebook Live, I want to just make a little mention at the beginning. We're running a therapeutic yoga intensive right now, and a question came up yesterday about the importance of sensation and of feeling and the subjective world that all lies in, and if that's actually an important world to even pay attention to. And we had a great discussion. And in reality, what I have found that has worked so well for helping people get out of pain is to recognize that the qualitative world of their feeling and their sensations is as equally important as the objective world of how their body moves, the diagnosis that they have, any physiological reality that is a quantitative measure. But without that qualitative measure of what is actually happening in your body according to your own subjective experience, it's really difficult to actually make any gains because every physiological quantitative number is expressed in a different way because of your subjective experience. So we have to pay attention to your subjective experience in order to help you. And so that is why what you feel and what you sense is so incredibly vital. And why I kind of keep coming back to it over and over and over again of what do you notice? What are you feeling? What's going on? Because with your subjective experience, we can help you more. We can really help you solve your pain puzzle because your pain puzzle is unique to you, right? So we can have all sorts of people with the same condition, but because you are you express it differently than others. Yeah, sure, there's some patterns that are similar amongst people who have the same condition, but it's all unique in terms of how it's expressed. So you need to really pay attention to your feelings so then you can truly advocate for yourself about what it is that you need and what it is that you're experiencing around the condition you're having. And so when you have that kind of detail, that's when you can go to someone like a physician or a physio or a yoga therapist or whomever and say, this is my experience, help me. And then we can take our experience and expertise, see what we see objectively, you experience your objective world plus your subjective world, and we blend them together, and voila. That is when power really happens in the healing trajectory. That's how recovery in my world happens. That's how healing happens. So today we're going to be doing some work around some twisting and some hips, and what I really encourage you to do is feel what you feel. Watch if you're getting seduced into sensation. Watch if you're getting seduced into range of motion, because what's also important to know is that increases of range in motion and increases in strength have zero correlation to reduction in pain. Some people it happens, but not everybody. It's not a go-to. Sure, you'll be able to do more in your life, and that's one reason to do it. But if you really want to reduce your pain and eradicate pain, what I have found to be so effective is to work inside the range where that pain doesn't keep going up. Yeah? So find that range, reduce your compensation to begin with. Then, as a result of that, your strength and your range of motion will improve. Okay? So with all of that said, we are going to head to the chair. I have got a tennis ball as well as a buckled strap and a chair. So that's where we're going to be today. All right, so here we go. I want you to begin by just sitting on your chair, feeling your sitting bones on your chair, and then just sit up as vertically as you can, yeah? And just feel what it is that you're feeling here. Now you can, if you feel like you're not even on your sitting bones, you can roll over onto one side and then grab gently this other side of you here and then pull your butt slightly away. Now, don't come right on your bum and heave your butt cheek away, just to the side. And find just moving the butt tissue away, you can find a little bit more of a neutral pelvis. I've also found when I've taught that to people who sit in desks for a lot of their day, or sit in chairs for a lot of their day, that their overall sitting position is better, and they're taller, and they have less strain, and that surreptitious kind of stress that goes in through their shoulder blades starts to settle out a bit, okay? So that you're here, I want you just to breathe now. and just feel what your breath is doing. And then take your hands, bring them together like this, and you're going to take your middle finger and place it at your chin. Okay, and the reason we're going to do that is that when you start to twist, I want you to keep your nose in line with your breastbone. But it's easy when you're limited through here just to do this with your head. So that's the first piece of awareness here. So we're going to slowly take you into a twist. Your head is going to stay with your rib cage. A lot of people in yoga will talk about how twists are horrible for the SI joints and the lumbar spine. And they can be when they're done really poorly. But when you can pay attention to how you're moving and recognize that the rotation is coming between your ribs and your pelvis, then a lot can change. So you need to feel this part of you here. So your rib cage is here. Your pelvis is here. And the obliques which sit between here and here, those are what's driving the movement, right? So a lot of times people will get their arms into something and heave with their arms, but then that's not really so much, the shape looks like a twist, but the muscles that we're generating to actually make the twist happen aren't actually doing the work, okay? So feel here your ribs, do this here. Now, if that hurts your shoulders and your neck, then obviously don't do that, but get a feel that this is your movement. And it might be more limited than you thought, right? And your obliques, they're the ones that as you think about moving your ribs, they're going to start to engage to enable that drive of that movement. So the driver is the obliques, or are the obliques, and this is the moving piece. Yeah? Okay, let's leave that for a moment. Now let's take one foot up onto the leg. And then begin to lean forward. So you're still equal on your sitting bones. So we come back up again. Notice your sitting bones. And then watch that you're not coming forward. So you can take your hands to your ribs again and notice if you do that motion and think more about coming through the hips. Okay, and then come back up. Okay, ankle comes down. And then other side. Ribs and pelvis. And then take your movement. Okay, great. Come back up. Okay, now, ball. So you can have a massage ball or a tennis ball. Now, depending on where you're at and what you're feeling, you could just do this on the sitting on the chair, or you could be in standing. And we're just going to roll this thing around and just get a feel of what's going on underneath your foot. And sometimes it's just simply to notice what's there, especially if you haven't done this before. Like what is actually existing underneath that foot. Sometimes too, it can feel weird to pay attention to your sensations, because for so much of our life, it's not something that we've really been taught to do, to listen and to feel. In fact, when people say listen to your body, what the heck does that even mean? What are you listening for? And what do you do when you listen to it, when you hear all those things? So it becomes really interesting to navigate. But here's what I've noticed, is when those folks who I teach can then start to feel and actually listen, they have a greater internal locus of control because they know the language of their body. Yeah? So they're much more clued into what actually works and doesn't work, so that when there is an intervention that doesn't work, they can articulate it clearly. Right? They get to advocate for themselves so much more effectively. Okay, let's leave that. Now just watch and look at your feet for a sec. Just get a sense of what that feels like now that you've done that, whether you were in standing or sitting. Okay, let's come up to standing now. We're going to come into a twist. All right, so we're here. And then same thing, hand comes to your chin, and then take the twist. Okay, one hand here if you want. You can even let this arm come away to the side if you want. You have to kind of play with that yourself, right? If the arms come into it, you've got to feel if that's ratcheting something up. Again, watch that. Just because you can do the range isn't meaning that that's where you need to go, right? Because we can be inefficient in the range of motion. So if we're inefficient in the range of motion, then that's the neuromuscular patterning that we're building. We're building inefficiencies in motion. And so if we're building inefficiencies in motion, let that come down, and I'm going to flip my chair around, then our mechanics, our physical structure, doesn't absorb and dissipate load quite as well, right? And then you get muscle structures and other structures doing jobs that they're not meant to be doing, which is essentially what compensation is. Okay, let's take that twist, which in theory is not such a bad thing. We all compensate. If we didn't compensate, we wouldn't be able to live life. But at some point, the compensation, the bandwidth for it, starts to break down. We don't, if you've got a different body part doing the job of some other body part that it's not meant to be doing, at some point, that's going to get fatigued. So at some point, it's not going to work for you. It's not going to serve you. So then your system will then find another compensation, which is why over time it feels like these compensations get stacked. I'm not really sure if that's truly what happens, but we do become more inefficient in our patterns. Then a lot of this chronicity or persistency and pain makes a lot of sense because there's so much that's happening that's inefficient. Good, and then come on back. Great, okay, now we're gonna do this with this side now, and now I'm gonna twist towards the camera. So now, same idea. Yeah. You can bring your arms into it if you want or not. So that's why this objective reality of how you move or what you move is important. But then also you being able to clue into the barometer of your body, which is the subjective experience, is also important. The two of them work together. Good. Any of you who have parents know exactly what I mean. If you have parents, if you are parents, that's what I meant. If you are parents, you know what I mean. If you've got more than one child, and I've got twins. Now granted, they're boy and girl, but they're just entirely different human beings. So how we discipline them, how we interact with each of them, sure, they're 3.5, there's similarities, but they're also very different children. Right? Their subjective world is different. Why would I discount that? That's as important to the objective reality of what's actually happening. Okay, and then come on back. Now we're gonna switch like this. Okay. So now from here, we're just gonna move like this. So here, hip and knee, that is the articulating joint area, these two. Your subjective reality makes sense. So notice what is going on with whatever pain that you experience, whatever bracing you're experiencing. If there's anything coming up and through here. Okay, great. And then we're going to switch to the other side. Okay, and just now notice here, let's just take a pause and notice the bottom of your feet. the ball of the foot, the base of the pinky toe, the center of the heel. And then begin hip and knees. This is the Captain Morgan stance, right? But you've got to be aware of what you feel. So those of you who've got some SI joint issues, generally speaking, or piriformis or bursitis or any of those kinds of things, you've got to pay attention to any kind of whispers that let you know those are going to arise. Okay, so now we're going to move that chair away. And let's take your legs wide. Okay. And we're going to rotate the leg bones. And then we're going to start to sit into goddess. So hip and knees. Sometimes this is called horseman stance. So feel the 3 points on the bottom of your feet. And then notice what's going on with your breath. So if you've noticed that you're able to come into this, but you're bracing through your ribs or you're holding in your jaw or your neck, and these might be very quiet sensations that part of your brain maybe says, those aren't really a big deal. And just for today, let's consider that they are. Just for fun. Experiment, humor yourself. Let's just say, maybe they are a big deal. They're quiet, they're subtle, but sometimes that subtle stuff is the most powerful. So how about only moving down as far as you don't brace, that you don't have that? Because here's the thing. If you do that, then now you're training a new neuromuscular pattern, one that doesn't have those things. So if you're sending back to your nervous system the movement of no jaw strain, no neck stuff, no bracing, no held breath, that's what's going to start to build. And then maybe within a couple of minutes, or maybe tomorrow, you'll be able to go a little bit further. It happens very, very fast. But if you push down to a place where you're like, even though you've got the distance, that's what you build. That's the neuromuscular pattern you build. So what do you want to build? Do you want to build tension or do you want to build ease? Okay, let's take the legs back. Okay, we're going to rotate this leg out. Pelvis might move a little bit in diagonal. You can choose what to do with this back leg. Some people like to rotate the leg in. Some people like to leave it this way. You decide for yourself what feels right? Your subjective world. And let me just scoot back my mat. Okay, so the key piece of it though is your pelvis is level. Okay, so when you turn that leg, what will sometimes happen is as the foot drops down, this will happen with the pelvis. So just pay attention. You might need to bring your legs a little bit more in, right, if that happens, because it just lets you know there might be some tissue stuff that is limiting you. Or you might be completely unaware of what you just did, and so now you can see it and you stop it. But it's a coordination pattern. We want to have that level. You can take this hand to the outside of the thigh, press the thigh into the hand. Yeah? And now just, again, notice what has just shifted up in this area. Did you brace? Did you clench? All of that stuff. Okay, good. Now you can keep the arms here, you can have them here. Again, you've got to feel your own internal world. Notice the sensation or lack of sensation or whatever that's there to let you know where those arms go. Even though you've got the range, doesn't mean you should be here, right? So you've got to tune in. Is there bracing? Is there gripping? Are my eyes drying out? Am I clenching on my toes? That's all the inefficient movement patterns that you're growing. Okay, good. Other side. So let's play with building ease. And here's a counterintuitive thought. And when you have a lot of ease, you actually build strength. Imagine that. Building strength with an undercurrent of ease. That's like called ninja. That's agility. That's like awesomeness, yeah? Okay, good. And then let that come back up. Okay, now come into standing. Now let's notice what you feel. So when you have this experience of your subjective world, you choose where to go. So you don't have to pay attention to the teacher. You just maybe follow some instructions and you go where you want to go. Feeling the center of the heel, ball of the foot, let's bring some weight over to one standing leg. And we're going to bring this foot up into a tree. Bring the hands up. A lot of people will say to me, Susie, I need more strength. And I'm not discounting them at all. I love strengthening. I love it. And you need a base of coordination, of neuromuscular coordination for that strength gain to really, really work. Or you're just building strength on top of a house of cards that is incredibly inefficient. And at some point, it's going to crash. Which is why a lot of people have cyclical patterns of pain. Because the underlying biomechanical patterns have not been resolved. Yeah? So when you resolve those underlying patterns, you can just imagine you become like this jet taking off, a rocket taking off, because those coordinated patterns are actually working properly. And the basis of that is feeling. All right, let's bring our strap into this. We're going to take the strap in behind. Hold on to the strap like this. And just bring the arms back. Okay, and now from here, you can let the strap go. You can also interlace your fingers if you prefer. We're going to take ourselves back into a lunge. So you can interlace the fingers if you prefer. You can hold the strap. Just watch that this is not happening. Okay. Also that this isn't happening, or that you're holding in the ribs. So you're coming from Tadasana, or standing. This leg is going to step back. Good. Good. Okay. And then other side. Okay, good. And then come back up. Let's drop the strap. Let's see where you're at. Okay, how are you standing? Okay, and let's come back to the chair. I'm going to say something that is going to sound maybe weird for some of you. What it is this. When you can build your awareness of what your inner feeling is, and your inner sensations, you tap more closely into the actual energy of who you are. And then you're able to express that more cleanly and clearly. And just imagine what that would be like for your life. Hands come together, come back to the original twist we started with. Notice if there's anything new, what's now present. Whether that's in quantitative range, or in how you're sitting, or in what you're feeling in terms of smoothness of the rotation. There may be something new, there might not be something new, it's just notice. All right, there you go, guys. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, listening to my little chat on subjective and objective. I hope you have a really, really, really great day. See if you can pay attention as much as possible to what you're feeling, and if you need my help, I've got one private spot available that's beginning in November. That starts for a 3-month series. I'd love to work with you and to help you, like I've helped so many other people, with reducing their pain, maybe even eradicating it. And you can email us. Go straight to our website at functionalsynergy.com. I'd love to chat with you, or just directly DM me, okay? Take care. Have a great day.